many medical issues, many problems in life in general. Even if you compare those women in prison to all of these other groups were studied, women were significantly more traumatized. These trauma things back in their life were significantly greater than any other group of inmates or other groups. Women had more illnesses and they needed more medication in prison time. And this difference between women was remarkable. Now again, how do we then deliver this news, this is quite terrible news about these women who come to prison. Well, if you read the newspapers when this was publicized, well, those women are terrible. They are so terrible. They don't even protect themselves in a sex. They are so ill, they must be very hard to handle. That was the point in a general discussions. That was what the media people got out of that study. What did that tell you about women? Well, they were really nutcases. They are mentally ill and they need a lot of medication and they are very sick in general. So we should be worried about them. Who knows what they will do? But I didn't see any of discussions in public about what should we do with this very special group of women who at some point end up to prison service and their background is this terrible. What should we do? Not that kind of discussions went on. It was more like, okay. Now, as I said, that was the end of the facts, and now I'm prepared to tell you a little bit about what kind of issues I think we are dealing with when we then work with these women that we just learned about, what kind of facts there is among them. There is, if you work in prisoners who are women, you cannot run away from the fact that there is this big issue of feeling shame, feeling worthlessness, that I'm worth nothing. Just a short example. My background is, I'm a psychologist, so bear with me when I tell you that why the shame is a problem. It is okay to feel guilt, and many of us feel guilt about few things in life. Probably I do at least. And for example, with the woman who's in prison, there's a lot of guilt about being a bad mom, being a bad mother. My children are somewhere else, I am here. If you have that guilt, you can do something with it. But if you have a shame, it's saying, I am a bad mom. I am a bad mother. With the shame feeling, there's nothing to do about it. You just are. You are bad. But if you feel guilt, I've done wrong things, I would like to do better next time, next year, after release, next time I see my children. It's a whole different thing. And this is, even though this my opinion comes from the background of psychology, but I think this is a common knowledge. You can test with your own thoughts about bad things you've done in life. If you think about those as oh, I did wrong, it's a different thing than being ashamed, that I don't want to even talk about it, I don't want to feel about it, I try to just, I am just this kind of person, I won't change. It's a big difference. And this shame comes with women in prisons. It's everywhere, and it's in them always. And I was thinking, but because I am coming from the prison and from the front level, as I said, I want to share a little story, just couple of weeks ago with you, we received a new inmate to our women's unit. She was called Eve, and our staff were a little worried about Eve because Eve is one of those women who have been in prison many, many times, so no first timer at all, something like 6th or 7th timer. And she's quite a character in all ways, and very strong, and very loud, and she wants to take the position everywhere, wherever she is. And she came to us from Turku closed prison, where there's a unit for women, and there was all sort of hesitations about her coming to our unit. Well, she's been in our unit about 2 weeks, and we had one situation. We had a lecture to all our women. The lecturer was talking about all. She was a person who's been living in as a child in a family with alcohol problem, and she was here in our prison to talk about women, about how those things that happen in childhood might affect the life as an adult, as a mother, etc. Just this kind of lecture. And Eve and all the other 50 women were listening this lecturer, and at some point, at the end of the lecturer, this lecturer mentioned the worthless, that you might feel sometimes like you are not worth anything. And Eve raised her hand and said, "Hey, I know what you're talking about. I have a story about this," and I was listening, and this is the story I want to share with you. Eve told, "You guys, you don't know what happened to me. I was in Turku prison, in a cell, and one day I found out that there was something wrong in my breast. There was a lump, swelling, something hard inside the breast." I know, it's cancer, of course. And so Eve told that she then contacted doctors and nurses in a Turku prison, and they referred her to the private clinic, and she was sent there in a week for more thorough investigations. And Eve told us that private clinic, it was like crystal lamps and beautiful paintings on the walls, and the couches were so pretty and nice, and the staff, they treated me like a princess. They asked, "Do you want to drink something while you are waiting?" Then they asked if I want to lay down because of the investigations and things that were done by me, and they treated me like a royal person. And I was just thinking that what kind of life I could have if my life was every day like this, like it was in private clinic. Well, at the end of the day, Eve told that at the end of the day, doctors came and said, "Well, we have now looked into what was wrong, and it's no cancer, it's only a water cyst. I know, a minor thing, and nothing major." And Eve told that she felt enormous anxiety, that she has gotten something extra, and it's not even cancer. That she's not worth of this wonderful day at the private doctor's clinic. And she was serious about this. She said, "I went back to Turku, to prison, and I was so down. I felt that I'd done something wrong because I spent this wonderful day on lovely couches and seeing wonderful paintings, and with these nice people who really asked me how am I doing and do I need to drink something." And she said that, "Well, it took me a week that I was okay with the fact, because someone from Turku prison, the staff, told me that it's okay that women in general go through these breast searches, that if there's any possibility to have a cancer. It's normal to go through these investigations, these medical things. And finally, I kind of thought that, well, it was not my fault that I went there to the doctor's clinic. So she said, I know what it means that I'm not worth anything. I'm not worth of those wonderful people at the private clinic. I wanted to share this because quite often we others than these women themselves speak about, yes, they feel shame and they feel worthlessness. But it's the real thing. That's the thing. They don't expect people to even ask them, how are you doing? That's the situation. The lack of self-esteem and the feeling of being an outsider of the society, it's common things. As already mentioned, I will jump to the trauma background. As I said, family violence, at least in Finnish women's population in prison, it's a big issue. And it's so traumatized people in general that we should have things to consider what to do with that background. And I will talk about more how it affects to education and learning skills and all that just in a minute. Then a word about relationships. When you have a woman coming to prison, she doesn't come alone. Even though she would be a drug user, even though she was homeless before the prison, or whatever, but she never comes alone. She always, there's those children. It doesn't matter whether she has been living close to them or not, whether she's been living in the same household with the children or not, those children come in her mind to the prison. Quite often, there is some guy they're taking care of. Quite often that guy, that person, the partner, is in some other prison. And a woman quite often starts to organize the life of both of them, how to meet, where to go, should we apply to the same institution or whatever. And quite often the women in prison also worry about and are interested about their own parents, sometimes also parents-in-law, about the spouse's parents, all that. Whole big bunch of social networks come with the woman to the prison. And I had a colleague who always said that, yeah, with women you get the partner, the parents, the children, then there's normally somewhere some cat or dog or some fish to be taken care of also, because it's really unnormal. For example, in our unit, every year I give permission to meet with a dog, like 5 times in a year. I have this application, can I meet my dog? It's really close to me. I've always been with this dog, and my neighbor would bring that dog to meet me. Yes, we take care of the dogs too. But when I talk about the relationship issues which come with the women quite often, and even much more than with men, it's not always a good thing. Seriously, there's a broken motherhood, and sometimes it's broken for reasons. And so I just want to tell you that I'm not saying that every mother needs to be in close contact with the children, and that not in all cases prison should promote all those things, whether the inmate wants or not. Sometimes we have to really understand the child services opinions about child's needs and child's rights. So there's a good relationships and bad relationships, but we have to deal with these issues. Quite often the relationships cause stress, some sort of stress, and there's a lot of shame issues also because of family violence and the criminal background. And broken motherhood is issue itself something so big that some women never really get over it. Being a bad mother is one of the big labels that people have to live their life with, and some really never get over it. In Finnish, there's a common saying in prison service. There's many colleagues who would tell you if they were here, they said, yeah, you want to know about women? Hard. I am more lucky to take 100 men in prison, but 10 women, that's too much. So that's a common kind of story that we tell, that these women are really hard to handle. They are verbal, they speak, they have always some issues, they always want to call to someone, and they have all kind of things. They want to organize things all the time, and they don't let the staff be alone. They are hard, very, very hard people, and sometimes they cry. They cry. What do we do with them? They cry, they yell, they scream. Ooh, terrible. So I think behind this story is the fact that there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of issues that we've now gone through, and it's not anything surprising that they are speaking about it, they are feeling about it, and they try to do something out of that, from that situation. And you always get this anxiety, as Eve told us, that there was this feeling of anxiety that came to her, feeling these things. You close to prison, first-timers, women who are not able to kind of fit to the prisoner's uniform in many ways. I mean, they want to be something else. You don't, as a woman, it's so much harder to take a kind of the prisoner's outfit and feel that, I'm just in the prison. And in any other, I'm not saying that there's a lot of these issues with men also, and I'm not undermining any of the feelings that men feel when they are closed into the prison. And I am sure that first-timers in general go through many bad feelings, but with women, and because of so many of them are first-timers, they go through this very deeply and very widely. And as already told you, those women have mental issues. There's that much trauma and so much mental problems that the anxiety is it must be there. It's no way to run. Also, of course, quite obviously, with women there is some special things, but I think those are quite obvious. Like you have to think about educating them about family planning. As I said, 60% of them have never used any protection when they had sex. So in a prison would be probably useful to use some time and effort to educate them about, at least finally, about these issues. Sometimes women do get pregnant, and they do get pregnant also in prisons. So there you then have to deal with the pregnancy issues. Women in prisons also miscarry babies. Those are crises to any woman, but those are also big crises in a prison setting. Women then end up to the decision to end the pregnancy and go through an abortion. That's also a special time of life and special occasion that never normally forgets in a woman's life. That's something that we should be always prepared to go through with the people. But they also do give birth in a prison time also, so we should be prepared for those too. So with women you get some of these special things that you cannot get with men, at least not yet. What should we achieve with women in prison? There is a social scientist in Finland called Riitta Kramfeld, who has studied a lot of those groups who live in marginals in society, and she's always been interested about women too. She has studied prisoners and homeless people and all that. And in one conference, she said that after studying prisoners, after studying homeless people, she feels that prison should have at least one thing in mind when working with women, and it would be to teach them to set the boundaries, to set some sort of boundaries around you. She told, for example, that the main reason why women in Finland end up without home is because they have to choose accepting the violence at home or leave that home, and then they have no home. So she said that the most important thing you can teach a woman in prison is to protect herself. That where is the lines that I draw and I ask everyone to follow. Then there's I've made this phrase from a cosmetic brand because I'm worth it. And because that's a good saying, but I would add the enough, that I'm worth enough of good things to happen. That's something that we should set a goal, that women would learn that I'm worth it. I'm worth education. I'm worth getting better. I'm worth getting a home. I am worth better relationships. I'm worth not being in a violent relationship. What it needs, I think there is a thing called safe environment in prison, and I think the next slide will explain a little bit more about it. But I really want to say that it's in a safe prison setting, women are not harassed. There is no sexual harassment in a prison where there are women. There cannot be that. They have already been so traumatized that you cannot let anything else happen to them under state's eyes. That's my opinion. This is not official. But really, and in my dreamland, women should be educated about the rights. As I said, these women have not benefited the development of equality in society. They should know that there is things like women's rights. And there is in fact many all sort of institutions and places and group of people who promote these things. They should be learned about even feminists and feminist groups, and they should learn about these things that are in society, because these women, they really don't know. I think the staff training is very, very important. I can tell you that in our women's unit, there is men and women working, but there is no joking about, sexist things. There is no. Our men must know that in this setting, in this unit, you don't kind of take a hint. You just don't use those jokes in this setting. And it's a good thing to have a kind of guidelines how do we provide safe environment for women in prison? And I think it's very important for those prisons where you have men and women mixed. Well, this is continuing the issues. Well, these two first topics, women-friendly environment and gender-specific approach, is, in my opinion, the only ways that we really can work with women so that it will mean something. A women-friendly environment, some of my colleagues, male colleagues, might tell you that, well, Kaisa, well, she probably would want all the men out of the prisons or something like that. But if I tell you, I think it's really important to have men and women working with prisoners in general, both men and women. I think prisoners benefit from the fact that they see all sort of men and women, hopefully very grown-up men and women in many ways. But since there is these moral things that you always, well, the whole prison service is about moral issues, whether you like it or not. There's these bad people and there's these good people who work there, and if you want to work well in a prison, you have to always also work with your own head about the moral issues. Am I better because of the fact that that person has committed a crime and I'm not? Or is that type of crime something that I really dislike? I can understand someone doing something on a paper, but if you did something like sexual act, I really, when I open your door, you see from my eyes that I really don't like you. So you are always with, you are always dealing with moral issues in prison setting. But with women, there's a, if you are a chauvinist, for example, if you really feel that women should stay home, and they really should, they are more capable of being a household people, and they should not, they bring these terrible issues like feelings to the meetings, and they are little unnecessary things come with women. You should not work in a prison where there are women. Seriously. If I'm recruiting people, I am very interested about the attitudes they have, what kind of norms they have in their life. If you feel that, go somewhere else. So, if you go to educate women in prison, you must go through these things in your head, I think. Okay, and gender-specific approach, some people are allergic to this matter, but I think it only means that if you want to do something that really affects these people, you take into consideration that you accept the fact, yes, they are women. Okay? They are women. It's not the same to be a woman than a man. It's a little different. Not so much different, but it's a little different. Okay? And in society, a woman to be sentenced to prison, it's a little different than a man. Okay? I accept that fact. And then I try to take that into consideration when I work with the women, when I plan for their education, when I plan for programs for them. I always remember that there's some little issues that we should take care of. It's nothing so strange or weird. Well, the next thing is true to everyone in prison, that all the prisoners deserve to be subjects of their own lives through involvement. But this is especially true of women because they've been in so many times in their lives on a side. They've been for someone else, they supported someone else. Many of them have a feeling of being kind of a, well, what's going to happen to me? That's common among prisoners in general, but I think with women it's quite big issue. Some of our colleagues in Sweden, I talked to them and I have gotten encouragement from there that if you don't work first with women so that you get them to feel I'm worth enough, it doesn't really help them to put them to the school or put them to learn new skills or put them to the thinking skills course, because if they don't feel that they really are worth it, if they feel that, well, I'm lost case, I'm ashamed of myself, my children will always think bad about me, my husband has already beaten me 10 years, I'm worth nothing. It doesn't matter whether she learns to be a good hairdresser. She never will go to the work because she already has so many issues that will affect the fact that she will never have normal life. You have to first start to respect yourself. Then you can learn, then you can add on things, and then you can change. And that's why I think the encouragement things that you can bring to the prison, and I've written a survivor women, meaning that women in prison should see that there are women who have survived all these terrible things that they've gone through and really changed their life, that it is possible. Because I think it is, at the first point I see always in our unit also, that women are first like, oh, there's others. Because quite often they feel when they are living their home life, when there's violence in their home, when there is children taken into custody, they think that I am the only woman living life like this. Then at some point they make a criminal act, they come to the remand prison, they think, this happened just to me. I did all these bad choices. I did destroy my life. Then they come to prison and they see, oh, there's others. Okay, it makes them feel a little bit normal that there's other as bad as me. But what they really need to learn is that you can go further. You can change, you can do something else. If you don't have to stay in a group of we did wrong things. So I would bring people who have survived from this. I would invite them to all women's institutions to tell that it's possible, to tell that you can have a good relationship with the children you didn't have when they were little ones, when you were in prison. Then my opinion is that sometimes you need to use unconventional ways. For example, I can tell that in our prison, we at some point ended up doing theater. And yes, my Nordic colleagues, if you might remember something happening in some country with the theater, which was not so nice. But anyway, we've done that with great success. I can tell you if you're more interested about it, we've done 2 professional plays, and we are starting just third one. And why did we do theater? Not because I like to be in the media about telling about the theater things. Oh, I want to meet the theater people, which are very interesting people. But guess why? In doing theater with professionals, those women start to handle issues like shame, feeling sad, feeling proud. They learn that they can do long-term things. They rehearse half year. They can take feedback. They don't go to the pieces right away. They learn group work. They learn to be proud of themselves. In my opinion, it worked. Why not to do? So I would like to encourage everyone to be creative. That was already said by Lena when talking about boring prisoners and educating them. But I think it's the same thing. Something new, something that people can be creative about also. Writing. I think in Swedish institutions there's yoga to find more about yourself. Good idea. Whatever you find it useful. Then, when they feel good enough, then make them to finally go to the school, educate them, so that they really can have those chances that women should have, chances in real life, in a new, modern, normal society. And of course, they need also good preparation for life after release, just like all the others. I think I have now come to the end. Thank you.
A very big thank you for a so interesting speech and so many highlights and so much valuable things to discuss after the coffee break today. I think we will need a coffee break after all this fantastic input to be more creative. The statement of the day. Thank you so much. Before you leave to take a coffee break, I got some notes for the afternoon.